Welcome to the Wydaho Show.
This is Stanley, a Star Valley legend that still operates a sawmill at 92 years old. Learn more about his story on the first part of this interview.
Welcome to the Wydaho Show. Today's guest is a local legend in Star Valley. He was born in 1930. He owns and operates Freedom Lumber, still does at 92 years old. He's the father of 7 children, 36 grandchildren, and an unknown amount of great-grandchildren. He has no great-great-grandchildren yet. Welcome to the show, Stanley Izatt.
Well, not much that I can say to that.
That sounds like a life well lived.
Yeah. I spent the first 9 years of my life in Turnerville, Wyoming, most of them anyway. There was 1 year that we was down in Moreland, Wydaho, but other than that, I've pretty much been here in the Freedom area, and I had lots of experiences in Turnerville even. You know, I think I evidently like to have horses around, but this one day Dad come in with a team and horses, and he unhooked it off the wagon, and I went out and I wanted to get on one of the horses.
Yeah.
And Dad put me on one of the horses. Then he was gonna take him over to drink, over to the creek, and that he let the double trees drag, and they picked up a big rock, and then it went over the double trees and
Well, can you explain what the double trees? I don't know what that is.
the double trees is the thing that hooks 2 horses together
Okay.
to pull a wagon.
Okay.
And the double trees picked up this rock, and then it stretched out, of course. The horses, can't even think of the word for that, but anyway, the double trees hit the horses in the back of their legs,
Okay.
and they started running. And Dad reached up and grabbed me, and double trees hit him, knocked him for a roll of cabins, and put me right under the horse's feet. And I got a scar to prove it, right there on the side of my face.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Maybe we should have set you on this side of the table here so the camera could
see
see it.
that I did have a scar there, but you know they got me to Afton somehow or other with I can remember one part of the trip up to Afton. We used to have a place that we'd go over the dumps, you know, that was too high, too straight up to drive the cars up it, but you could sure drive them off there. And my uncle was driving, and he went off that a little fast, and the car just settled down like that, you know, and it took my breath away, and I can remember that. But got up to the aft, and I don't remember anything with that.
How old were you when this accident happened?
I was 3 years old.
3.
It was October of 1933.
And you have some memories of that still.
Oh, I can remember the doctor. He taken. My dad was watching the operation until the doctor. He says, "That's no good," and he threw a bone over in in the wastebasket, and that finished Dad watching the operation, and it.
The doctor just discarded a skull fragment out of your skull?
I'm one bone short in my head. But we had a shingle mill up in Turnerville.
Is that what your father did?
He had they made shingles out of the lodgepole pine.
Okay.
And I think I could still find maybe a building or two that still had some of those shingles on it. Fact is, I'm pretty sure I could find one, but that was over 80 or 90 years ago, 80, 85, somewhere. Anyway, Dad started working in the mill down here in Freedom in 1935, and we moved down here in 1939, and Dad he went in partnership with two other guys, and then finally they broke up, and Dad got the mill, and the one guy got the crawler tractor, and the other one got the truck, and and then Dad had the mill for.
Now this mill right here?
No, the mill that's in that shed now, we bought in 1974.
Okay.
And I've still got parts of the old mill in that mill.
So the old mill your father started, what was actually on this property?
It was actually just a little west of where we're sitting.
Oh, okay.
I got assigned to taking the engines away from the edgers when I was 9 years old, and that's when I started working in the mill, and then I slowly worked up to where I was taking the lumber off the Dad sawed, and we used to saw lots of mine timber. They had mines over in Soda Springs that we used to take a lot of mine timber to, and then there were a lot of mine timber went down to Park City, Utah. That place has got a lot of lumber underneath them.
Yeah. So how did you transport the lumber back then?
Well, we had a guy that had a truck, and we'd put it on a truck, and he got ICC classification, and then he wasn't any good to send lumber down. We used to pile on all the lumber we could pile on the truck.
Heavy green lumber, right?
Well, we did a lot of 10 by 10s at 16 feet long, and I was able to just pick up a 10 by 10, 16 feet long, walk off with it. It wasn't only about 300 or 400 pounds, so it wasn't too bad.
For the guests here, Stanley is not a large guy. How tall are you, Stanley?
Oh, I don't know. I think I must be getting taller, but it's harder to put my socks on. Legs is getting further away from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to have lots of fun with, seeing who could pick up the most, and it was always fun. We had a bunch of Indians come in when we was sawing lumber for the church over in Freedom, and those guys would stack up boards, and one of them would laugh at the other, and while he's grinning, and then they'd change, and the other one would do the laugh, and then the other grin. But anyway, it was fun to see who could lift most, and that I could lift those 10x10s, but I never have figured out how to lift 100 pounds of wheat or anything, because it falls through my arms and that kind of.
You could pick up a 16-foot 10x10 with a 90-pound sack of grain. Gives you more problems.
Well, I'll tell you, it falls through, and I've got to. Anyway, it's I had a few interesting things happen to me. My brother was trying to pull a log, and actually he was just about where that mill is, and he was trying to pull a log with a 8N Ford tractor.
Yeah.
And that thing, every time he tried to, he let off on the clutch, the front end would come up. He says, "Get on that front end and hold it down." I got on the front end, and he let out on the clutch, and it come up like that, and I clamped my legs in to stay on the front, and the fan caught my pants and jerked me off the thing, and then my brother seen me down there on the ground, and he put in on the clutch, and the tractor come down and hit me right there in the shoulder, and then he ripped it in reverse, and he went back off, and it should have broke every bone in my ribs, but he got off from that, and that little rib on a 8N tractor was about an inch wide, and it went down my leg, and it peeled off all the hide on my leg.
Oh.
And man, that was stinging like everything, and as soon as it let me loose, so I jumped up and I started running around in a circle, and I was yelling, "I'm a dead man, I'm a dead man, I'm a dead man." And I got to thinking about it. Man, I'm sure active for a dead man. So I tipped over and I made him carry me to the house. and then they took me to the doctor in the leg, and I never did get any problem from running over the top of me or anything. It was, so we have the number 10 laugh every time we talk about that when we get a family gathering together. Why, they always talk about that.
That's one of the old stories you keep going over on the holidays.
It takes, and it still gets pretty much the number 10 laugh out of it every time. I've had it. If you look at around here, and the mill was setting just west of where we are now, and I've seen boards go over the saw, hit the saw over and it would take boards clear out over that wash over here, so it'd take them for a long ride. And I saw, and I got a 1x14, and it caught into the carriage, and it hit the saw, and it come back and hit me right here in the chest, and it really took me for a ride. And I got over on the bed, and I could feel I was dying, so I told the wife, I said, man, I hate to leave you like this, 5 kids to raise and everything, and man, she fell apart. It seemed got the bishop over here, and he give me a blessing, and I was in high heaven. Man, it was nice. I've never felt so peaceful and everything.
You thought your days or minutes were numbered?
I thought I was done had, and then he blessed me, and then I was back to hurting again. And boy, it happened in August, and I still couldn't go hunting in October. So I was just bright purple all the way from top to bottom.
Oh my!
And it was so. I've had it so that I've been close to death, but the devil won't have me, and the other guy knows I'm not worthy.
So tell us about your early years in Star Valley. Let's just say as a young man and getting married and your work life. What was it? Maybe you can tell us what Star Valley was like back in it would have been late 1940s when you became an adult.
Well, I'll tell you that, you know, that when we moved down here to Freedom, it didn't matter which neighbor was going to Afton. They'd call all around and find out if there's something that they could get in Afton or something, you know. And
that was a special trip, getting down to Afton for a shopping trip.
Yeah, and they'd get all of the things that people could dream up, you know, and it was really quite a thing, because people was really conscious of helping their neighbor, and so you know and now people will go to Salt Lake, or they'll go somewhere else, and they won't even say anything, you know. And it's but I think this $5 gas is going to change things back again, maybe.
Yeah.
It's
so as a young man, then did you work with your father and then take over the lumber mill from your father? How did that work?
Well, see, I went on an LDS mission in 1950, and then when I got back,
where'd you go on your mission?
I went down to Los Angeles, California.
Yeah, what do you think of that place?
It looks like a pretty big place to me, and it was a wonderful place. You know, that in 1950, I could have bought a house and a lot for under $10,000
in LA.
Well, I was in Canoga Park.
Okay, in the area.
And they had about about 160 acres of orange grove. And I left one morning, and when I come back at night, why, that 160 acres of beautiful orange trees was windrowed. They used a D8 cat and windrowed it, and then they put pads out there and houses, and the house and lot was under $10,000 at the time. And my son, youngest son, went down, and he went into the Anaheim, California mission, and we used to call that whole mission the Orange District because it was in Orange County. And I went down while he was in the mission field there, and he was living in one of those houses that I could have got for under $10,000, and the price on it at that time was $320,000, and you can't buy that place. I don't think you could go down there with $1.5 million and buy the same place, and they don't even have to make any upkeep to it.
Yeah.
It's unreal what's happened down there. The way I go down to California is I go down I get to Las Vegas on a Friday, and then I go down to California Friday and towards evening, and the freeway on the other side is packed, and I got free driving all the way.
Right, everybody from LA is coming to Vegas, and it's kind of like the reverse commute through Snake River Canyon, huh?
I'll tell you that well, Jackson's getting a little more like California. Car.
So what did you do after a mission then in life?
Well, I started in the mill. There was my other two brothers. We took over the mill, and Dad went on a mission down to the Indians, and we
down to the Indians where?
Gallup, New Mexico.
Okay.
And it was
Navajo Nation down there?
Navajo Nation.
Okay.
And they had some interesting stories to tell when they come home. And then they moved to down to Draper, Utah.
Your folks moved to Draper?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so all we had to do for the mill was we had to furnish lumber for the Dad to build a house down there, and that was it. And I took in. Well, there was three brothers of us that was involved, and I eventually bought my one brother's interest out, and then my other brother, he sold it to one of my friends, and I got stuck for about $40,000 to get that.
To get him out of the business?
Yeah, and then he wanted to put, and it'd probably been a good thing, but he wanted to put storage units on the property, and I kind of liked control, so I took and I asked him what he wanted, and he said he wanted $40,000 for it. So I gave him the $40,000, and then I had it, and then real estate agent come in and he offered me $275,000 for the 5 acres, and I said it's not for sale. And
What year is this?
well, it would have been. Let's see. It would have been. I don't know. It was getting close to the year 2000 or so.
Okay.
And anyway, that real estate agent, he said, "Well, you'll sell when the price gets right." I said, "Oh, try me on a million, it'd be the same answer." He went away kicking rocks, and I got thinking about it. I thought, man, I might be tempted, if somebody offered me $1 million. So I got rid of the temptation. I signed it all over to my youngest son.
Yeah.
And we just got them all signed over and everything. We had it all sealed up, and kid, the next morning he came in and he said, "Well, our work's cut out for us." And I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "The mill caved in last night." And I said, "Whoop-de-doo."
So the moment you sold it, it's not your problem anymore?
It wasn't my problem. And he cleaned up the mess, but I had to put the roof back on the mill, so.
Yeah.
But
So like say in your 20s, 30s, you're running the mill hard. Tell us what a typical day or week looked like in those days for you.
well, you know that I had kids that was growing up, and they all wanted to go on missions.
Yeah.
My first son, he wanted to go on a mission, so I told him I'd support him. And I was getting $150 a month out of the mill. And he put in his mission papers, and when his mission papers come, it said that it was going to cost $150 a month to keep him in the mission field. I thought, man, that sure riddled me a little short, but I took and I decided, well, I got one thing going for me. I've got good health, and I've got 2 good brothers. And so I talked it over with my brothers, and I asked them if they'd start in the mill with me at 4 o'clock in the morning. And they agreed, and we'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, we'd come out to the mill and go to work, saw out lumber, and then 8 o'clock we'd go in, grab a little breakfast, and head for the canyon and get logs.
Thank you for watching the first part of the Wydaho show with Ryan and Stanley. The next part of this video will be uploaded by next week. Stay tuned!